Okay. Hi there, YouTubers. Good morning. And welcome to my morning exercises. So, as you see, there's this hill here. That's about, 15 degrees up that way, about 10 degrees that way, about 20 degrees that way. So I'm not on a level space, so I have to level myself. And what I do with that is my feet. I put them just in a nice space underneath my hips, thus giving my whole torso a level playing field. And so I wake up every morning in tremendous pain because I have all these environmental things called diabetes and neuropathy and other things wrong with me, at least by the medical model. And how I deal with it is not take a bunch of pills. I listen to the birds, and I breathe in the prana, and I connect with the chi. Chi is the grounding of the earth. Prana is my little golden thread going up into my Akashic record, into the higher astral realms. So, what you have to do, you have to breathe. We have this thing called autonomic breathing, and so we don't have to think about it. If we had to, we'd probably fall over dead. But when you breathe 20% more, okay, here we go. All the way up there, run my diaphragm all the way up to, and I breathe out. I breathe out. I breathe out. I breathe out. So I'm breathing in 20% more than I normally do. And I breathe out 30% more than I normally do. And to do that, you have to consciously breathe. And to consciously breathe, you throw the monkey out of your brain. So, I like those eyes. I had them operated on Friday, just the other day. It's kind of like Clockwork Orange. Malcolm McDowell's in that chair with those big clamps on his eyes. That's what it was like. Except they stuck a big needle in there. Anyway. So, you're breathing 20% more. Right? And so, we ground ourselves with our feet underneath our hips. We sit down. We are kind of suspended by this little string and let it So I'm breathing in. Gathering all the prana, having it shine within my cap, my highest of my chakras, my capstone. Then I ground myself out into the earth and absorb the chi, which can't be balanced without your chi. Your body can't work without your chi. The chi is the reference point of every molecule of your body. And the prana is the energetics. You breathe it in through your lungs, goes into your lungs. Your lungs absorb it and all those little sacs in there. And that prana goes in there. And it goes into your lungs. and it kind of goes into your heart, and then your heart pumps the prana all through your body. And the blood doesn't go blub, blub, blub. It swirls along the walls of your veins. And it swirls not in just one swirl. Within that swirl, there's another swirl. And within that swirl, there's another swirl. And because our bodies are, our blood is iron rich, that swirl is Tesla's polyphase alternating current being generated in your body. And that's why we're in the matrix, because we're somebody's ever-ready bunny. We are powering the universe, our little swirl of blood. And when you consciously take that power, you can do whatever you want in your life. Now, we live in a world right now where we are so distracted by, and that's what Donald Trump is. He's the great distractor. He is getting everyone to not think about what's important. He's doing things. I mean, he is no more corrupt or dishonest or any of the above that any of the other politicians are. They are all as corrupt and dishonest. They're all there for themselves. They're all taking money. They pass laws where they can do insider trading. Come on. They give themselves the best health care. Leave us, if you can't do what I do, then you're dead. So, we have to look at what's going on. And we don't have to allow what's going on. We don't have to fight it like, those liberals, those conservatives, those things are deplorables. No. Obama. No. Because they're all playing the same game. They're all being used in the same kind of way. And you don't want to be used, do you? Come on. So, every morning I have to do this exercise. Because what it does, it reorientates every cell in my body not to hurt. Right? I'm kind of like the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz. Oil can. So I have to move. I can't just sit down, and my legs are too weak to stand all the time. I have to move. And I wish I had someone to hold the camera or a tripod, but I'm just leaning it on the tree. So anyway, you sweep and then you step. And take your hand below and sweep and then you step. And those motions are the major motions to every single martial arts there is. So, you have to sweep and then step. Sweep and then step. Sweep and then step. And look at these beautiful things right here. These are my friends. This is what we need to focus on. This kind of beauty in our life. So the first time I ever lived in North Carolina was in the 1960s. And I had a friend who is we went to high school together at a prep school in Massachusetts, right on the border near Hampshire. And it was a prep school for the richest boys on the planet. It's the Winchendon School for Boys. And I went there because I was kicked out of the most elite Catholic prep school called Canterbury in... Where can I get some light on me? in Connecticut, in New Milford. There we go. It's a little better. Anyway. So, those are, I've told bits of those stories. You know, my mother was uber Catholic. That's why she had so many kids. She really didn't want any kids. She liked being the center of attention in a circle of powerful men, and that she could control them, right? And that's why she married my dad. She was the admiral of the Navy, and my dad was the captain of the ship. And he was a triple Virgo, so there was no stopping him. And she was a triple Capricorn, so ooh, baby. Anyway, I can't even go into the depths of that relationship. One day, maybe. In my writings, I go into it a little bit. But, and remember, you can always look at my writings at xrated.blogspot.com. XRATTED. Anyway, so there we were, going to prep school. There we were, young men, and all of these young men were expected to rule the world when they grew up. And that's how we were being taught. But we weren't being taught with the kind of enlightenment that Plato taught Alexander. You know, I went to the same kind of prep schools that Mr. Chump went to, Donnie Chump. Except he went to a military school. But, you know, Canterbury was a school that had a military component. It was a Catholic school, so they had a military component, so Catholic boys could become Catholic military men running, the Pope's army, right? Which is kind of what the Defense Department is. And because, you know, the Pope is not a very Christian guy, you know. Catholicism is a business plan. You know, people ask me about aliens and paranormal things. Well, paranormal is just, what does it mean, paranormal? It means the kind of normal things that we think are normal aren't normal. But they are. We just, you know, it's like radio waves and microwave and infrared. They were in existence way before we discovered them. You know, we didn't invent them. They were zipping around before we knew they were there. And there's plenty of other stuff out there that goes bump in the night. That's out there, you know, and we call it scary, or we call it paranormal, or we call it a lot of things, but it's none of the above. It's just what is going on right now. So, in those prep schools, they basically traumatized you to rip away who you were so they could imprint what they wanted you to be. And for some strange reason, that didn't quite take with me. Basically because when I was a young lad, from birth to about 6, I had my grandmother to watch out for me and to put me into a different sensibility. And for all of my parents' issues, they were pretty special themselves. And they ignored me, which was the best thing they could have done, because it allowed me to become me. And then I had all around me amazing, if I have any gift or talent or whatever, is to be in the right place at the right time, kind of know it, and jump on the bus. And here's a good story about jumping on the bus. So, this school called the Winchington School for Boys, it was, this is what I, I can't hold my arms. I'm old. This is pathetic. Anyway, so I stay in a negative space here, Hear my voice and look at the trees. Anyway, so I was at the Winchendon School for Boys. We were there from September until May, and we only went home for Christmas. We were there 24/7, and we went to school 24/7, not 24/7, like 8/7. Even on Sundays we went to school. But we also had a lot of free time. And on Sundays we got to go, our gym, we didn't have a gym in our school, so we had to use the town facilities. And, they liked the fact that we paid them for it, and all the young girls were like hot to trot they knew we were uber rich kids, and they wanted to get knocked up and get paid off or marry us or something. So we went down there, and the girls would be running after us, It was like pretty amazing. But it was a pretty long walk down the hill, and up the hill was, even worse. And we were there most of the winter, so you would freeze to death. So anyway, there was a freight train that went through town and went up to right by the school, kind of right by it. And it went up and down a hill, so it would go 4 or 5 miles an hour, not very fast. So we all learned how to jump a train. And we jump on a train and we ride it downtown and we jump off and and that way, instead of, they gave us almost 40 minutes to walk down and 40 minutes to walk up. So you jump on a train and get downtown in, 10, 15 minutes, then you'd have a whole hour to yourself to fool around down there. Anyway, one time I jumped on a train by myself, and instead of the train slowing down, it sped up and went faster and faster and went through town, and it kept going until I got to Toronto, Canada. And the bulls of the train yard there found me in my little prep school uniform and kind of said, what? And I said, yeah, I got on the train and it didn't slow down and here I am. Anyway, they had to call my headmaster, and he had to drive all the way up to friggin' Toronto to get me. And boy, he wasn't happy about that. So, life is like that, But most of us so, unconscious to what's going on. We can't even enjoy it. We can't even have a story like that in our life because we're so worried about Donald Trump and so worried about Obama. And come on. And we're so distracted by Donald that we don't see the wrecking crew destroying our country, taking it apart. The minions are just ripping our what we have of a constitutional democracy apart, And, God help us if Mike Pence becomes president, because haven't you guys noticed how much he looks like Donald Sutherland in the Hunger Games? Haven't you noticed how much he reminds you of the men in The Handmaid's Tale? And that's what our TV is about. It's about giving us a heads up. Hey, kids, this is what we're going to do to you. And have you ever watched a TV show called Supernatural or Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Grimm? These stories really kind of give you a nice heads up on what's going on the astral world, right? And all the little different groups that are back there playing it, right? And Supernatural does a nice job with talking about the Nazis, and that they're still here, and that they're entities like the men of letters that are still here. And but none of this matters if you can live your life, if you can wake up, Buddha was by the side of the road in meditative splendor, and a traveler went by him and said, "My God, look at that guy." And he went over to him, just like, John would do, and would say, "Hey, you, are you God? Wake up, wake up, hey, are you God?" And Buddha kind of looked at this guy and said, "I am awake." He goes, "Well, you God?" And the Buddha said, "No." And the guy, the traveler, said, "Well, what are you?" And Buddha said, "I am awake. And to be awake, I am transformed." So, come on, wake up, guys. Transform. That's what you're here to do. You're here to transform. So, until, this is a learning curve, gang. I'm not into Grandpa Smurf tell you a story mode, because I get distracted. Having to hold a stupid camera is worse than John, bouncing around distracting me. Because my arm's starting to hurt now. Anyway, but I want to really talk about us coming together, because we are at a very interesting time. I spent a lot of time of my career studying trends, and we are at a trend moment right now that is mind-boggling. Worse than any war period time, worse than any revolutionary time, and not worse, because it's not bad, it's an opportunity. Now, if we ignore it and just let the powers that be and the different minions kind of, do their thing and take advantage of it, yeah, it's not going to be a nice scene. But if we embrace it, that's what the beat scene was, That's what the Enlightenment was. These were really terrible times that people said, no, we're going to have a party. We're going to have a good time. We're going to do something different. And the thing to be different is to be the artist in the first person, to be the savage, to be the co-creator with love's light. And I want to do that with you. I want to show you how to do it with you. And it's still May. It's not even summer yet. Even though this week here in lovely Roanoke, it was 70s and 60s and 50s on Monday. And, Friday and yesterday was in the mid-90s and in the 80s at night. Now, that should give you a heads up, kids, that this ain't the average everyday. Shit's going on. But we don't have to be scared of it. We don't have to be taken advantage of it. We can change it, because all it takes, the strongest thing, is one's love. One's appreciation of the other as ourself. The co-creation with love's love in the first person. That's what all great art, all great culture. And the strongest tool we can use is art, creativity. Because everything else, business, we weren't put on this earth to run business, We weren't on this earth to fight wars. Now, these are wars, you should, the movie, I love the movie Wonder Woman, because the way that they talk about the demigods, Ares, how Ares, can't make us do anything, but puts little ideas in our head. That was definitely the invention of the atomic bomb. It was a bunch of monkeys, and people were whispering in their ear. So, I want you to get a hold of me at thedudeawake42@gmail. Start having a conversation. I got a bigger memory chip in my phone here, so I can send things off to you and do this YouTube thing. The phone is working a little better. But that was like a week's worth of food. But that's good. I don't eat as much. I get thinner. I get healthier. There's less weight to carry around. Anyway, so I I think 25 minutes is enough.